back with another video. So first of all, I got a bunch of new subscribers. I just want to say thanks for subscribing. I'm gonna have some Seiko videos coming soon for the fake Seiko. I got some parts on order. They're gonna take a minute to get here, but I'm taking that fake SKX that I have taken apart, and I'm gonna do what some people call the Explorer mod. So I'm gonna get a flat bezel and a polished stainless steel bezel and a polished stainless steel chapter ring. Swap all that out. So that's going to be coming soon. But today, before we get started, I'm going to talk about the wrist check. I got my little Timex Weekender, little chronograph, and it's probably one of the first decent watches I've ever bought after a Seiko chrono that I also have. But my wife got me this one at Target a million years ago, back when Target used to sell nice watches. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about some Russian stuff, specifically the Vostok Komandurski and the Vostok Amphibia. Now, I've been waiting on these watches for a long time. This one came from Russia. It took about a month and a half for me to get a reply from the guy to let me know that the shipping got delayed 2 weeks. So about 2 months waiting on this one, and about a month and a half waiting on this one. But it was worth the wait. I freaking love these watches. So this Vostok Komandurski, I think I paid somewhere around 60 bucks for it. I'll pull up the Amazon little example I got, but yeah, it's a solid little watch. Of course, you know with Vostok, they get the screw down crown, and they got the crown that's really not on the stem. And if you've watched any cheap watch channels, you've probably seen a video about this before. But pretty much the crown isn't attached to the stem. That way, if you have it pulled out and it gets a knock, it's not going to break the stem and just completely destroy the watch. So you can replace that. Also, this is just some cheap NATO that I put it on. Well, it's a cheap Zulu now because I cut the extra stuff off because it just didn't sit right. But if you notice, another thing about Vostoks that people always point out that I think is pretty cool is the way this case back comes off. So they got the locking ring right there, and the case back lays in right there. Isn't that pretty cool, huh? Nice and Russian, super Russian. This looks a lot better in person than it did on the ad. And of course, being a Vostok, it's got a bi-directional bezel. So I don't know if that's a minus for you, then hey, whatever. And of course, it's got an acrylic crystal. But I like it. It's a solid little field watch. It keeps amazing time. I've had it for about, 4 or 5 days so far, and I've worn it quite a bit. Today, finally, I got my Amphibia in the mail, finally. So this is a 200-meter water-resistant dive watch, legitimate dive watch. It's got the same deal for the case back. It's got an acrylic dome. It's got a bi-directional bezel, and the same screw-down floppy crown. Now, both of these watches are hand-wind, but this Vostok Amphibia, it's an automatic too. So if you see here, I got a canvas strap. This is actually a Barton canvas strap, and I love it. The whole reason I ordered this strap was for this watch, because I knew I was going to be replacing those straps on both of these immediately. So this is a strap that came with the Komandurski, and it's just disgusting. I don't even know if that's leather, but it's super thick and very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. I immediately took that off. And this is part of the strap that came with the Vostok Amphibia. I was gonna size it, and I couldn't get any of these pins out, no matter how hard I tried. So I said, you know what, I'm never gonna use this strap anyway, so I might as well just not. But if you've ever seen a video on a Vostok, you've heard about their crappy straps, and I tell you what, they were not kidding around. This is the worst clasp I've ever had. Oh, it's just it's very sharp. It's just gross, and it pinches your hair like crazy. So I'm gonna pull up some Amazon ads for these two watches here. The first one is a Komandurski. It looks a lot better in person. This is a little bit different than the one I got, but the same dial. So I paid 60 bucks for mine, and there's some specs. So notice how it says water resistant. Yeah, I wouldn't wear this in the shower. I wouldn't mind wearing it in the rain, but I definitely would not wear it in the shower, or definitely not in a pool. as far as the, the running time, what do they call it? The power reserve, that's pretty accurate. It's been going for a while now. And here's a Vostok Amphibia off of Amazon. And this one is about 90 bucks. I think I paid 80 for mine. This isn't the exact watch, but there's a million different faces for both of these. There's a million different kind of case styles for this one. There's a couple different for this one. You can also get this in chromed brass instead of just straight up brass. But let's look at some specs for this one. So as you can see, it's 200 meters of water resistance. This is a legitimate dive watch. It's a cheap dive watch, but it is a legitimate dive watch. And it goes into a little bit of the history too. But yeah, so I paid about 60 for this one, about 80 for this one. And they're solid watches. They are cheap. This is a cheap watch channel. So of course I'm gonna have some Vostoks on here. Now the thing that's really cool to me about these watches that I talk to people about when I tell them why I like Vostok is the history behind them. And I'm not a history buff, so correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day, they made these watches for the Soviet Russia, for the military. And they have their own movements. They make them in-house, or at least they used to. And the reason they did that was they wanted, cheap, durable, reliable timekeepers, but they didn't want to take patents from the Swiss or the Europeans. They wanted to have their own stuff. So they just made their own movements and put them in here. And as far as the water resistance goes, I mentioned this case back. This is their design that they came up with. So on a normal dive watch, like a Seiko, it's got a screw down case back. And when you take the case back on or off, you're putting torque on that gasket that's under there, and every time they take the case back off, you have to replace the gasket. This one you don't, because you put the case back on top of the gasket and then you put a ring over it. So it's only linear pressure on that gasket. And this acrylic dome is specifically designed for a reason, or at least it used to be, so that when you're underwater and the deeper you go, this crystal will compress and create more water resistance on the front, and this case back will compress and make more water resistance on the back. So it's, what do they call it, dynamic water resistance. So it's pretty cool. One interesting thing about these watches is they don't have quick set date. So I'm going to advance the date a little bit for you and pull this crown out. I'm going to advance it. It's going to pop over C29. Now we don't have a function on the stem to quick set the date. So what you got to do is you take it back to about 8:30. You see the date flip, and you come back. It advances the date. Take it back to about 8:30, and it advances the date again. So you can't advance the date backwards, but you can always go forward, which is a pain in the ass because now I got to do that whole thing over again about 30 times to get it back to the right date. So the things I do for you guys, the things I do. So anyway, those are my Vostoks. Super excited about it. I've been wanting this one for about as long as I've wanted that SKX. They just take so long to get here. So what I plan on doing is buying another watch soon, along with those parts for the Seiko I got coming. And I want to buy a field watch. I love field watches, and I think I have enough divers. I don't really have any interest in dress watches. I have a few of those already, but I want a solid field watch. This is a solid field watch. But if you didn't know, I'm in the military, and this is a little too flashy to wear in uniform. So I'm looking at some Timex chronos that are a little bit more subdued. But if you guys have a comment or a recommendation for a decent field watch, I would love to take some input on that because I'm shopping around for one right now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I highly recommend getting a Vostok. Definitely one of these. You can get them on a website called Marinome.com. Marinome? Is it even .com? Might be RU. I don't know. But if you Google up Vostoks, you'll find that website, and they have tons of these watches, and that's directly from the supplier. Of course, you can get them on eBay all day. You can get them on Amazon all day. They're probably going to be a little bit more expensive on Amazon, but they might get there a little quicker. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Shout out to my new subscribers. Thank you. And yeah, wear what you like.